everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Penny and I'm the owner of 1 Cent Crochet. So for today's video, I'm going to be telling you all of the crochet supplies that I use and where I get them from. So anywhere from types of yarn to what crochet hooks I use to what supplies I use for filming my YouTube videos, as well as what I use to deliver my plushies. Make sure to subscribe and like this video if you want to see more content like this, and let's get straight into it. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the most important thing. So my yarn. So I basically exclusively use Premier Parfait chunky yarn. As you can see, my entire collection down the side here. So for pretty much all of my plushies, I use this yarn. I buy this yarn off of American Yarns AU. So it's basically an Australian website where you can buy all of these different types of American yarns and you don't have to spend $60 on the shipping, because all my Australians will know that if you go onto the Premier Yarns website and you try to buy like $80 worth of yarn, then shipping is almost equal to the amount of money that you are spending on the yarn, which is quite literally ridiculous. So if you are looking for a website to buy yarn and you are Australian, then I would highly recommend American Yarns. And you can also go pick it up if you live in Melbourne instead of getting it delivered. But yeah, Premier Parfait chunky yarn is definitely my favorite for making plushies. It's so soft and it's so easy to work with as well. Other than Premier Parfait chunky yarn, I have also used, how do you say Burnett blanket yarn? I don't think that's the pronunciation, but the blanket yarn. I've used this yarn for the bunny that's sitting up there and the other bunny that's also sitting up there. I don't mind this yarn. It's really fun to work with, but it also hurts your wrist a lot more than using Premier Parfait chunky yarn. And it's also just not, it doesn't feel as nice, you know, it's not as soft. But I can understand like what you would use this yarn for, like if you're making a really big plushie like I did with the bunny over there. Finally, the other day I bought this like fuzzy yarn, and honestly it's so hard to work with, but I'm getting used to it. And I got this off like AliExpress or something just because I wanted to try out fuzzy yarn before I like went to an expensive website and bought like the really good stuff. And I don't really know how to feel about it. I definitely like Premier yarn, like the normal yarn that I use, a bit better. This is definitely difficult to work with, and I'm not really sure if I like the feeling that much, but I have it here anyway in a few different colors in case I ever need it. Next up, we have what crochet hooks I use. So I pretty much exclusively use this 5mm crochet hook, and I got that from Spotlight. I use this for Premier Parfait chunky yarn. I originally started using 6mm with that yarn, like when I first started out, and then I went down to 5.5mm, and now I am finally at 5mm. And I think I will stick to this, but I don't know, I didn't think I would go lower than 5.5, but I'm doing 5mm now. And I know some people use 4.5mm for Premier Parfait chunky yarn, but I think it just depends on what sort of tension you have. But yeah, I have like an entire set of these, they're just sitting up there, and I basically only use like 3 of them. Next up is my yarn needle. So I bought an entire set of these when I first started crocheting. Then I lost like 4 of them, and this was the only one left, which is good because it's a good size anyway and it works out perfectly. But I'm waiting for the day when I lose this and then I have to buy a whole nother set and lose all of them again. This was also from Spotlight, and I will link that in the description. Okay, next up we have safety eyes. So I buy all of my safety eyes from asiacell.com.au, and they are located in Cairns, Australia. So I always get 16mm for my bigger plushies and 12mm for my small plushies. And that's basically the only size safety eyes I use. I also have like this little set that I got from Amazon originally. You can see it has like all the different sizes in it. I'm pretty sure none of the backings actually work though, so I don't know, they're kind of just like the cheaper versions. But if you do want to buy safety eyes, I know most people buy them off of Amazon. I just prefer to buy them off of AsiaCell because they are a bit cheaper and you can buy it in bulk, so it's just easier. Of course, I also have to use scissors for crocheting. I can't tell you where I got these from because these were my grandma's and they have been around for probably about 60 or so years, but they work great and they're just like normal sewing scissors, I guess. But yeah. So for stitch markers, I know a lot of you use like sort of fancy little stitch markers that you can buy on Etsy and all that, but I don't use stitch markers as such. I use scrap yarn to like replace my stitch marker, and that way I don't have to spend any money on stitch markers, and also it's just lighter and easier to use a piece of scrap yarn in my opinion. But I know some people like using like paper clips or just like something cute that they find on Etsy, and that's perfectly fine too. Okay, so now we're getting into the technology side of my crochet business. So I have a MacBook Pro, which I use to run my business, my laptop, which is just sitting over here. I use that for pretty much everything that I do on Etsy, except for replying to messages, which I use my phone, and for editing videos as well, although I occasionally also use my Mac that's behind me. I just find having a laptop makes it a lot easier to like carry my business around with me. And then as well, of course, because I film videos, I have to have this little adapter because the new MacBooks do not have any space for USBs or an SD card slot, so this is the way to fix that. Next up, my camera gear that I use to film my YouTube videos with. So I use this GorillaPod sometimes if I need like an extra little tripod. I have a few like little tripods like this because I do filmmaking, so they're useful for that too. And then as for camera and microphone, I can't show you what I'm using currently, but I will tell you I am shooting on my Sony a6500 with an 18 to 135mm lens, and I also use my Rode VideoMic Pro to get the good audio quality. I actually can't remember if it's the VideoMic Pro or not. I bought it like 4 years ago, I think, but it's pretty much perfect for making these sorts of videos where the microphone is facing towards me. Obviously, if you want to film your own YouTube videos, you do not have to have a fancy camera or microphone. I think having a microphone would actually be more beneficial than having a proper camera, because you can film pretty much anything on iPhones these days, and you can use the app Filmic Pro if you want to make it look like it was shot on a DSLR. But I noticed that people generally won't watch something if it's got really bad audio quality. So if you can invest in a little microphone or something, it doesn't have to be anything big, then I would highly recommend doing that. Occasionally I shoot from behind the camera without my microphone, or like the shotgun part is facing forwards, and I notice how bad the audio quality is when I do that, and I hate it. So I try to make sure that most of my videos have decent audio quality, because I know that's something that really bugs me. As well, for my camera gear, I just have my Sony tripod, which it stands on. As for like my editing software, so how I make my thumbnails for my YouTube videos, how I edit up my listing photos, how I edit my YouTube videos, I use Premiere Pro for editing my YouTube videos, just because I have access to it because I'm using it for other film things as well. I use Photoshop for my listing photos and my thumbnails, but you can also use Canva for that sort of thing, which is completely free. As for editing softwares, I know that some people like to use Final Cut. I despise Final Cut, but that's just a personal opinion, and it's totally fine for editing videos. But if I had to choose between Premiere Pro and Final Cut, then I would definitely be choosing Premiere Pro. Or even better, DaVinci Resolve, but I'm still getting used to that program at the moment. If you want a free editing software, obviously there's iMovie. As well, I know a lot of YouTubers nowadays use CapCut, but I can't remember if that's only available on your phone, and I definitely like to have the editing software available on my computer so that I'm not squinting at something the entire time. Now for packaging, for sending off my plushies, which I do sometimes do plushie drops or plushie restocks, even though I mostly just sell patterns. So I have this tissue paper to wrap it in. It's not very aesthetically pleasing because I ran out of pastel colored tissue paper, so we had to move on to the grey tissue paper, but I'll be getting some new stuff to package it in soon. And as for the actual packaging, I use these poly mailers from Poly Post. I will link their website in the description. I just think that the packaging is so cute. But I also want to invest in getting like proper boxes in the future, because I have had 1 or 2 instances of plushies being delivered and Australia Post just sort of throws them around and they get squished, which is not good. So in the future, I will be buying boxes to send off my plushies in. And then we have my favorite item, Hobby Fill, which is the stuffing that I use for my plushies. It feels very nice. I'm actually running out at the moment, but we still have some left. Anyway, I think that's about all of my crochet supplies that I use. And definitely if you're starting a crochet business, you do not need all of these things. This is just what I have accumulated across the years. Especially the gear I used to film has definitely been accumulated across the years. Not something that I just like bought all in one go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any more videos that you want me to make, then please suggest them in the comments section. At the moment, I'm uploading 3 times a week, so Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So yeah, feel free to comment below if you have any particular videos that you want to see from me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!